My name is Liana. I am 36 years old, and the story I am about to share is not a love story that fell apart. It is not a marriage destroyed by infidelity. It is something different. Something deeper, something that changed my understanding of trust in a way I never expected. This is the story of how my own sister, the person I loved most in the world, betrayed me in a way that nearly broke me completely. I come from a family where closeness was everything. My sister Ava and I grew up sharing a bedroom, sharing secrets, sharing clothes, sharing laughter. She was my first friend, my fiercest ally, my mirror, my shadow, my home. Even as adults, people often said we looked like two halves of the same soul. When one of us walked into a room, the other was never far behind. I trusted Ava more than anyone else. I told her things I never told friends. I let her in completely. I never imagined I would one day regret that. The moment everything changed came on a quiet Thursday afternoon. I was at work, sitting through a long meeting, half listening and half thinking about what to cook for dinner. My phone buzzed with a single message. A message that did not look dangerous at first glance, a simple sentence from an unknown number. You should check who your sister is meeting. Those words stopped the world around me. My heart picked up speed, my throat tightened, a strange coldness rushed through my chest. I stared at the message for several seconds. Unsure whether to laugh or feel dread, my sister was supposed to be at a wellness retreat too. Town's over. She had told me she wanted space to clear her mind and recharge. She said she needed time to breathe. I believed her without question. That was the kind of trust I had in her. But now something inside me whispered that this message was not a mistake. I wrote back asking who it was. The message never delivered. The contact had already blocked me. The silence that followed was heavier than I could make sense of. I tried to focus on the meeting again, but my mind kept circling back to that message. Who sent it? Why? What were they trying to tell me? I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Ava was my sister. My confidant. My beloved person. She would not lie to me. But doubt has a way of slipping through even the smallest cracks. During lunch break, I stepped outside and called her. She did not answer, strange. Ava always answered my calls. Always. I tried again. Straight to voicemail. A knot formed in my stomach. I told myself her retreat might have poor reception, but the unease did not leave me. That night, I decided to drive to the retreat center. I told myself it was a casual visit. A surprise. A way to check on her. But deep down, I knew I was looking for something else. Truth, proof, reassurance. The drive was long and filled with an anxiety I tried to push down. When I finally reached the small resort nestled between pine trees, I walked into the reception area and asked for her. The receptionist looked confused. She checked the records. Then she looked up again with a polite smile that felt like a blade pressed gently against my chest. No one by that name is registered here. I froze. I felt something inside me crack sharply. A dizzy wave of confusion washed over me. I stepped back from the desk and tried to breathe. My mind raced. If she was not here, then where was she? And why would she lie? I walked back to my car, gripping the steering wheel as if grounding myself through touch alone. My thoughts spiraled, memories flashed through my mind, conversations, her sudden emotional distance. Her secretive behavior, the locked phone, the excuses she brushed off with smiles, all the things I dismissed because she was my sister. A part of me wanted to scream. Another part wanted to cry. But mostly, I felt numb. I drove back home in silence. When I entered my apartment, the first thing I noticed was that one of the drawers in my study looked slightly open. I kept all my important documents there. I walked slowly toward it, my breath shallow. When I opened the drawer fully, my heart sank. My file containing the deed to my grandmother's house was gone. The house that was supposed to legally pass to me. The house Ava and I had once promised to protect together. The house full of memories from our childhood. My hands trembled. I stepped back and pressed a hand over my mouth. A cold realization began forming inside me, rising like a tide I could not push away. Ava had not gone on a retreat. She was not clearing her mind. She was not finding peace. She was planning something. And whatever it was, it involved taking something that belonged to me. Before I take you deeper into this story, tell me where you are watching from. Have you ever experienced a betrayal from someone you loved so deeply that it changed the way you looked at trust forever? Because this was only the beginning of what my sister did. Before the missing house deed, before the strange message, before the sharp, cold realization that my own sister might be hiding something from me, life with Ava looked beautiful, warm, familiar. Safe, we were not just sisters, we were each other's person. The kind of siblings who finish each other's sentences, laugh at jokes no one else understands, and share griefs that never touch the surface when spoken to strangers growing up. Ava and I had only two things in abundance, love and loyalty. Our parents worked long hours. Struggling to keep our small household running, Dad managed a hardware store. Mom stitched clothes from home. We learned independence early, but we always had each other. Every night, before bed, Ava would climb into my side of the bunk bed and whisper stories she made up. Tales of enchanted forests, brave sisters, magical homes that could never be taken from us. She said the two of us would always be safe as long as we stayed together. I believed her then. A part of me still wants to believe that version of her, our grandmother, the woman who raised us during summers and taught us about love, honesty, and family, became the heart of our shared childhood, her house an old, warm cottage with blue window shutters and a garden full of jasmine was our sanctuary. It was the only place where life felt still, simple, pure. Grandma always said the house would stay with the granddaughter who carried her spirit the most, someone who would protect it, honor it, keep it alive. Ava always believed that person was her. But Grandma chose me instead. She left the house to me in her will when she passed away 8 years ago. I never asked why, I never questioned it. But looking back, I can see how deeply that hurt Ava. Even though she hid it behind smiles, after Grandma died, something changed between us, not all at once, nothing dramatic. But there were small shifts. Subtle lines drawn in silence, a distance that grew like ivy creeping along a wall. Sometimes Ava would make light jokes about the house belonging to me. Other times her eyes lingered a little too long on the framed photos of Grandma I kept on my bookshelf. She would say things like, "You were always her favorite," followed by a laugh that did not quite reach her eyes, but most days. We were still close, we called each other daily, we met for brunch every weekend. We shared recipes, stories, rants, fears. I told her everything about my life, my heartbreaks, my anxieties, my dreams. She told me about her career struggles, the pressure of bills piling up, the loneliness she tried to hide behind sarcasm. I often gave her money when she needed help, not loans, gifts. That is what sisters do. Ava had always been the free spirit, the one who lived from one spontaneous moment to another. She never stayed at a job for more than a year. She was brilliant, creative, and full of potential. But she lacked direction. Whenever things became overwhelming, she retreated into herself. When she needed comfort, she came to me. I never once turned her away. Meanwhile, my life had become structured, stable, almost predictable in its quiet routines. I worked in a design firm. I built my home slowly, piece by piece. I collected memories of places that grounded me. I sometimes wondered if Ava resented the stability I had. The life I had shaped gently but firmly. The home I inherited. The home she once believed was meant for her. Still, I believed our bond was unbreakable until things started shifting again. It began with her sudden emotional withdrawals. She became harder to reach, shorter replies, missed calls. Cancelled plans when I asked if everything was all right. She always gave vague answers. I am just tired, work is draining, I need a little space. I believed her, of course I did. But space turned into distance. Distance into avoidance, avoidance into secrecy. She began locking her phone the moment I walked into a room. She became defensive when I asked innocent questions. She stopped sharing the small details of her life. She grew protective of her schedule, her plans. Her whereabouts, then came her request for the deed. 2 months before everything collapsed, Ava asked me if I had ever considered selling Grandma's house. Her tone was calm. She said she saw a listing for a similar cottage priced very high and wondered aloud how much mine would be worth. When I told her I had no intention of selling the house ever, something shifted in her expression. Something dark. Something cold. Something she quickly masked with a smile. She said, just curious. Don't worry about it, but I worried. The house meant everything to me. Not because of its value, but because of Grandma. Because of memories. Because of the love woven into every corner of it. Ava knew that. So when the deed disappeared from my drawer, the betrayal spread through my body like ice. Still, before that moment, I loved her without question. Life before everything fell apart was filled with what I believed was genuine sisterhood. We celebrated birthdays together. We decorated each other's homes during holidays. When I had surgery last year, Ava slept on my couch for a week, making soup and keeping me company. When she went through a breakup, I held her while she cried. But beneath all those beautiful moments, a quiet tension pulsed, a tension built from years of unspoken jealousy, unresolved resentment, hidden comparisons, a tension she buried like a seed. And now the seed had grown roots in the darkest soil, because someone does not betray you out of nowhere. Betrayal grows, it festers, it begins long before the moment you finally see it. Looking back, I realize Ava had been drifting from me for a long time. Drifting toward something I could not name then. Something dangerous. Something she was willing to destroy our bond to reach. In the life before everything collapsed, I saw only love. But beneath that love was a storm building slowly. A storm I would soon walk into without realizing how much destruction it would leave behind. Betrayal rarely arrives as a thunderstorm. It begins as a whisper, a faint tremor beneath ordinary moments, a feeling you cannot name yet cannot ignore. When I look back now, the signs were there long before the message, long before the missing deed. But when it comes to people we love deeply, the heart chooses blindness over clarity. The first sign appeared 6 months before everything collapsed. Ava had started asking unusual questions about my finances, casual at first, subtle. She asked how much I paid in property taxes for Grandma's house. Then she asked how much insurance cost. Then she asked if I had renovated anything recently, all innocent questions on the surface. But her tone lingered in my mind long after the conversations ended. Curious, calculating, almost too focused on details she never cared about before. I brushed it off. She was my sister. Why would she have bad intentions? Then she started visiting the house more often at first. It warmed my heart to see her reconnecting with a place we both loved. She brought me fresh flowers to plant. She cleaned the porch. She walked through the rooms silently, running her fingers along the old wooden frames as if revisiting childhood memories. I thought it was sweet, sentimental, beautiful even. But there were moments when she lingered a little too long in Grandma's study, moments when her expression shifted into something I could not fully read. A kind of longing mixed with something darker, something like possession. Another sign came during a conversation about my future. I mentioned casually that I planned to leave the house to my future children someday. Her reaction startled me. Her jaw tightened, her eyes widened, then she forced a smile that felt brittle. She said, "Interesting," in a tone that carried more meaning than the word itself. At the time, I dismissed it. Now I see what that moment truly held, around that same period. Ava's behavior changed drastically. She became vague about her own life while becoming strangely curious about mine. She would dodge simple questions like where she had been, who she had met, or why she had taken long trips out of town. When I gently pressed her, she always got defensive. She would say things like, "Why are you interrogating me?" or "Can't I have a private life?" Her defensiveness felt unusual. She had never reacted that way before. She also became distant in conversations. When I talked about my work or my plans for the house, she would nod but look away. When I asked about her job, she gave shallow answers. I sensed she was hiding something, but I convinced myself she was simply stressed or overwhelmed. This is what love does. It creates excuses. Then came the day she showed up unexpectedly at my house when I was not there. She claimed she wanted to surprise me with fresh cookies from our favorite bakery, but something about her presence felt off. She seemed nervous, her hands fidgeted. Her eyes darted around quickly. Later that evening, I noticed the drawer in Grandma's study was slightly open. It had been closed that morning. Inside that drawer were old family papers, letters, and keepsakes. Nothing valuable. Nothing dangerous. But the fact that she had gone through it without asking left a strange taste in my mouth. Still, I said nothing. The biggest sign came 2 months later. Ava asked to borrow a large sum of money. Not unreasonable on its own. But the amount was significant, and her explanation was vague. A business investment, she said. Something private, she insisted. When I asked what exactly she was investing in, she snapped, "Why don't you trust me?" "You never trust me." Those words startled me. I always trusted her. Too much, in fact. She was the one who was becoming unrecognizable. One night, I visited her apartment unannounced. I had made soup and thought she would appreciate the gesture. But when I arrived, she looked startled, almost frightened. She blocked the doorway slightly, preventing me from walking in. Behind her, I could see papers scattered across the dining table. When I tried to peek, she quickly shut the door behind her and stepped outside with me. She said she was in the middle of something. She said she needed privacy. She said it would make sense later. My stomach knotted that night. I could not explain why, but something about the closed door, the hidden papers, and her nervous behavior gnawed at me for days. Then came the retreat lie. When she told me she needed time away to clear her mind, I believed her, because that is what you do with people you love. But the message from the unknown number, "Check who your sister is meeting," destroyed that trust in seconds. Ava's phone being off, her absence at the retreat, the missing deed. The nervous behavior, the sudden secrecy, the visits to the house, the forced smiles, the unexplained questions about property value. The signs were everywhere. And now that I think back, I realize something painful. Betrayal rarely arrives suddenly. It grows quietly in the background of relationships. It disguises itself as love until the moment it cannot hide anymore. Ava's betrayal started long before I saw the missing deed. I just did not want to see it. The breaking point came quietly at first, no loud explosion, no dramatic confrontation, just a moment that froze everything around me and shattered the world I thought I understood. It happened 3 days after I discovered the deed was missing. I had torn through every drawer in my home, every folder, every envelope, every box. My heart pounded harder with each failed attempt. I knew I kept the deed in that drawer. I knew exactly where I placed it. I could still hear the soft click of the folder closing the last time I looked at it, but now it was gone, taken, hidden. Stolen by the one person who should have been protecting it with me. On that third day, something inside me snapped. I decided I needed to see Ava face to face. I needed to hear explanations that made sense. I needed answers that could only come from her. My hands trembled as I drove to her apartment, but my mind was sharp with purpose. I felt anger rising inside me in ways I had never felt toward her. When I arrived, I knocked once, no answer. I knocked again, louder, still nothing. I called her name, pressing my ear to the door. Silence. The kind of silence that tells you someone is inside, but refusing to respond. My heart began to race. Something felt wrong. Something felt hidden. I stepped back and noticed the lights were on. Behind the curtains, her car was parked outside. She was home. She was choosing silence. I refused to leave. After several minutes of knocking and calling her name, the door finally opened. Just a crack at first. Then slowly, reluctantly, she pulled it wider. She looked startled, alarmed, as if she had been caught doing something she never expected me to see. Her hair was messy. Her breathing uneven. There was a tension in her shoulders I had never witnessed before. She said, "Liana, what are you doing here?" Her voice was thin, tight, forced. Something inside me hardened. I did not bother stepping inside. I did not greet her with softness. Not this time. I asked her plainly, "Where is the deed?" Her face went pale, completely pale. Her expression flickered with panic so clear it felt like a confession. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Not a single explanation. Not a denial. Just silence. That silence stabbed me deeper than anything she could have said. I stepped past her before she could react. I walked straight into her apartment. She followed quickly, trying to stand between me and the dining table. But I saw it the moment I entered. Stacks of papers, folders, contracts, property listings, legal forms. And right in the center of the table was the deed. My deed. The deed to Grandma's house. The deed she told me she respected. The deed she swore she would never touch. My breath caught. My eyes watered. My knees nearly gave out. But I forced myself to stand firm. I slowly walked toward the table. Ava rushed forward, her hands shaking, trying to block my view. "Liana, wait, let me explain." But I pushed her hand aside. The top document was a purchase agreement, with Ava's name listed as the seller, my property, my inheritance, my grandmother's house. She had been preparing to sell it, to sell the house that defined our childhood, to sell the house Grandma trusted me with, to sell something she knew meant everything to me. My heart broke in a way I had never felt before, a deep, twisting pain that hollowed out my chest. I whispered, "You are going to sell the house," Ava stuttered. "I just needed money. I thought you would not use it. I thought you would understand. I thought it was the only way." Her words dissolved into meaningless noise. I stared at her, truly seeing her for the first time, not the sister I loved, not the girl who climbed into my bunk bed to tell me stories. Not the woman who hugged me through heartbreaks. I saw someone capable of stealing from me, lying to me, manipulating me, erasing our bond for money. The papers on the table blurred through my tears. My hands shook as I held the deed. I pressed it to my chest like I was holding onto the last piece of truth I had left. Ava whispered, "I am sorry." But the apology felt empty, too late, too small. The breaking point had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. After finding the deed on Ava's dining table, I left her apartment without another word. I could not stay there. I could not listen to excuses. I could not breathe in a room filled with secrets she had spent months building. I walked out with my hands shaking, the deed pressed against my chest like a fragile piece of my past. My legs felt weak as I made my way to my car. Once inside, I locked the doors and let the tears pour out. I cried from shock. I cried from disbelief. I cried because the person I trusted most had just proven that love cannot protect you from betrayal, not even the kind that comes from family. When the crying finally stopped, something changed inside me. The shock settled into a deep, burning clarity. I needed answers. Real answers. Not the half-truths Ava would offer. Not the soft explanations she would twist into pity. I needed to know why she did this. How she planned it. Who helped her. How long she had been preparing to sell the house. And most importantly, what else she had taken from me. That night, I did not sleep. I sat at my kitchen table, the deed beside me, and went through everything I remembered from the last year. Every unusual question she asked, every visit she made to the house, every strange comment, every cancelled plan, every nervous behaviour. The reasons she gave seemed harmless at the time. But now they lined up like dominoes falling. She had been preparing this for months, maybe longer. Maybe years. The next morning, I contacted a lawyer, a quiet, serious man who listened carefully as I explained everything. He examined the deed, the documents I found, and the partial contract Ava had not yet filed. He leaned back in his chair and said something that sent a cold shiver down my spine. She could not have done this alone. Because the process of selling a property without the consent of the legal owner is complicated. Even if she forged my signature, she would need help, someone knowledgeable. Someone willing to cooperate with her, someone who stood to gain. When he said that, my stomach dropped. There was someone else involved, someone I had not yet identified. The lawyer told me to gather every document Ava might have touched. Bank statements, emails, mail, anything. He warned me that if she had gone as far as forging contracts, there was a chance she had also tampered with financial records. Maybe she tried to access my accounts. Maybe she had applied for loans in my name. Maybe she had impersonated me. The thought terrified me. I drove straight to the old family house, the one Ava had been visiting, the one she had planned to sell. I walked through the rooms slowly, noticing details I had missed before. The study smelled faintly like a perfume Ava loved. Papers on the desk looked slightly rearranged. My grandmother's jewelry box was slightly open, though I had not touched it in months. Inside it, one of the heirloom necklaces was missing. Not stolen by a stranger. Taken by my sister. Another sharp wound opened inside me. I sat down on the floor of the study, my back against Grandma's old wooden desk. She always told us to protect each other. She always said that sisterhood was sacred. I felt grief welling up again, but I pushed it back. I needed to focus. I looked through every drawer, Every box, every folder, I found something that made my breath catch. I printed a mail thread between Ava and a real estate agent. She had used my name. She had pretended to be me. She had asked questions about selling the house. The emails were dated. From months ago, my hands trembled as I scrolled through the messages. In one, she wrote, "My sister does not know I have access to the deed yet. I will get it soon." My heart sank. She had been planning this for a long time, carefully, strategically, deceptively. Then I saw the signature at the bottom, not my handwriting, not hers, a forged version of my signature, one she practiced enough to make it nearly identical. As I kept searching, I found a small folder tucked inside Grandma's wardrobe. Ava must have hidden it during one of her visits. Inside the folder were printed bank statements. My bank statements, I froze. I had never seen these before. They showed attempted logins to my account from Ava's old laptop. Failed attempts at password resets. Rejected transfer requests. She had tried to access my money. I felt a wave of nausea roll through me. She had not only wanted the house, she had wanted my finances, my security, my life. Everything inside me twisted painfully. Why would she go this far? Why would she risk everything for money? I sat there, breathing slowly, fighting the panic rising inside me. That was when I decided I needed professional help beyond legal support, so I did something difficult, something vulnerable. I contacted a private investigator. It felt strange, telling a stranger about my sister's betrayal, but he listened carefully, took notes, and asked precise questions. He told me he would begin by tracking Ava's communications. He would look into her financial history, her recent movements, her known associates, anyone she might have collaborated with. Then he said something that chilled me. If she has gone this far, she may have done similar things before. I had never even considered that. I had spent my entire life believing Ava was impulsive, messy, emotional, but not malicious, never malicious. But the evidence said otherwise. The more I uncovered, the more her behavior formed a pattern of manipulation, a pattern of entitlement, a pattern of hiding things from me. The investigator promised updates soon. The next 48 hours were unbearable. My mind raced with possibilities. I replayed conversations with Ava in my head. I analyzed every detail I once dismissed as harmless. I questioned every memory. Finally, on the third day, the investigator called. His voice was calm, steady. He said, "I think you should sit down." My heart dropped. He had discovered the truth about Ava's plan. A truth far darker and deeper than I was prepared to hear. When the investigator told me to sit down before explaining what he found, it was not just fear that curled through my stomach. It was something older. Something I had felt before. A familiar ache rising from a place in my past that I rarely visited. A place where love and betrayal were already tangled long before Ava and I became adults. Before I could process his words, memories began surfacing. Memories I had buried so deeply that it took a shock like this to bring them back into the light. As I sat there holding my phone, waiting for him to speak, I suddenly found myself revisiting pieces of my childhood I thought no longer mattered. Ava and I did not grow up in a perfect home. Our parents worked hard and loved us, but they carried their own storms. Dad had a temper that simmered beneath the surface. Mom lived with constant anxiety, always waiting for the next thing to go wrong. The house often felt tense, like a quiet pressure humming through the air. Ava felt that tension more than I did. I could cope by withdrawing into books and quiet spaces. Ava coped by acting out. She lied often. Small lies at first, then bigger ones. When we were 8, she told our parents I broke her favorite toy. I had not touched it. But she cried dramatically, spinning her story so convincingly that I was the one punished. I never forgot the look she gave me afterward. Not guilt. Not regret. Something closer to fear mixed with triumph. As if she learned that day how powerful a lie could be. Years later, when we were 15, she stole money from Mom's purse, not much. Just enough to buy concert tickets. When Mom discovered it missing, Ava blamed a classmate who visited our house the week before. Mom believed her completely. I watched Ava laugh about it later with her friends, thrilled by how easily she manipulated the truth. I always forgave her. She was my sister. I thought she lied because she was young, emotional, confused. I thought she would outgrow it. But she never did. Instead, life taught her how to refine the skill. How to use guilt as currency. How to twist stories to avoid responsibility. How to make herself the victim even when she caused the harm. I remembered a time when she begged me to cover for her after she crashed a friend's car. She said she would be ruined if anyone found out. She cried until I agreed. I lied for her. Took the blame. Lost my part-time job because of it. She thanked me, hugged me, promised she would change. She did not. Looking back, I realize Ava always lived into worlds. The world where she was my sister. And the world where she believed everything belonged to her. She had always resented how easily things came to me. My job. My stability. Grandma's affection. Grandma's house. It was never spoken aloud, but I felt it in small moments. In the way she compared herself to me. In the way she clung to Grandma during summers. In the way she flinched when Grandma praised my grades or my achievements. Ava wanted to be the chosen one. The favorite. The one who inherited the house, so when Grandma's will named me instead of her, something inside Ava cracked. I should have seen the resentment that flickered in her eyes that day. I should have recognized the quiet storm forming behind her smile, but love makes you blind, and I loved her too deeply to believe she could ever hurt me. As I sat there now, listening to the investigator breathe quietly on the phone before revealing his findings, I understood something painful. Ava's betrayal did not begin with the missing deed. It began in childhood, in seeds of jealousy, in envy that grew silently alongside us, in wounds she never healed, in lies she never stopped telling. In a hunger for belonging she believed only the house could satisfy, the investigator finally spoke, pulling me back into the present. His voice grounded me. But the emotional storm inside me continued to build, because now I understood the truth with wrenching clarity. Ava did not betray me suddenly. This was years in the making, a lifetime of resentment blooming into action. And the weight of that realization cut deeper than anything she had physically taken. This was not just about stealing a house. This was about losing the sister I thought I knew, the sister I loved. The sister I protected, the sister I forgave again and again. It was about facing the truth that the bond I cherished was not the bond she felt. And as painful as that truth was, it prepared me for what came next, because the investigator was about to reveal the darkest part of her deception. I sat in my living room, the phone cold in my hand, my pulse thundering in my ears as the investigator revealed everything he had found. His voice was steady, almost gentle, but the truth he delivered cut through me like glass. Ava had not acted alone. She had been working with someone. Someone who knew the value of the house. Someone who stood to gain from the sale. And when he said the name, my breath stopped. The same cousin who grew up with us every summer. The same cousin who used to sit with Ava on the porch sharing secrets. The same cousin who recently contacted her again after years of silence. A wave of nausea hit me. My chest tightened painfully. Two people I loved had been plotting behind my back. The investigator said they were already in the early stages of preparing fraudulent documents that would transfer ownership. They planned to sell the house as quickly as possible, split the money, and disappear before anyone noticed. I thanked the investigator quietly, hung up, and sat in silence for several minutes. My entire body trembled. I felt betrayed not just by Ava, but by my entire childhood. My family. My history. Something inside me hardened. I could not cry anymore. I could not break again. From Ava herself. Not with tears this time, but with a calm determination I had never felt before. When she opened the door, she looked startled again. She had not expected me to return so soon. Her eyes were red, her hands fidgeted nervously at her sides. I stepped inside without waiting for permission. She followed quietly. Closing the door behind us, "Ava," I said. My voice steady, "We need to talk." She swallowed hard. "Liana, please," I was going to explain. I looked her directly in the eyes. "Then explain now." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She stared at the floor, her breath uneven. I waited. I wanted her to speak. I wanted to hear her say the truth. Not a lie. Not a softened version. The truth. Finally she whispered, "I just needed the money." I did not think it would get this far. I shook my head. "You forged my signature. You tried to access my bank accounts. You hid my deed. You planned to sell Grandma's house without telling me. And you did not think it would get this far." She winced, but I did not soften. Then I said the words she never expected. "I know about Noah." Her head snapped up, eyes wide in shock. Her mouth fell open, then closed again. Her face drained of color. "Liana, I can explain," she whispered. That was the only word she seemed to know. I stepped closer, my voice still calm. "Tell me how long you have been planning this with him." Her lips trembled. She sank into a chair like her legs could no longer hold her. She covered her face with her hands and let out a trembling breath. "It started last year," she said softly, voice breaking. "Noah reached out. He said he wanted to reconnect. But he had other ideas. He said the house was worth a lot. He said it was unfair that you got everything. He said I deserved something too." Her words landed like blows. "He told me if we could just get the deed, we could sell it fast and no one would know. He promised he would handle all the paperwork." Sick that she believed him. Sick that she chose money over family. "And you agreed?" I asked quietly. I was struggling. I felt like I had nothing. Like you got everything. The stable life. The house. "So you decided to hurt me?" My voice cracked slightly. She looked up with tear-filled eyes. I thought you would not notice if it happened fast. I thought you would move on. I thought it was just a house. It was Grandma's house," I whispered. "It was the one place she trusted us to protect. And you were going to destroy it." Ava broke down sobbing. "I know." I stared at her silently. And I did not recognize her at all. She reached out to touch my hand, but I stepped back. The distance between us felt permanent. "Ava," I said softly but firmly, "you did not just betray me, you betrayed our family, our grandmother, everything she taught us." She sobbed harder. "Please, Liana, I can fix this. Just tell me what to do." I took a slow, shaky breath. "Nothing," I said. "There is nothing you can do. This has consequences, and you have to face them." Her face crumpled. But for the first time, I did not rush to comfort her. This was her doing. I walked to the door. But you broke something that may never heal. She whispered my name, but I did not turn back. I stepped out into the cold evening air, closing the door behind me. Everything had changed. And the aftermath was just beginning. Walking out of Ava's apartment felt like stepping out of a life I no longer recognized. The evening air hit my face, cold and sharp, but not as cold as the emptiness spreading through my chest. Betrayal from a partner wounds your heart. Betrayal from a sibling wounds your soul. I drove home. In silence, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my fingers ached. My mind kept replaying her confession, her excuses, her tears, her fear, her jealousy, her hunger for what was never hers. By the time I got home, my body felt heavy. I closed the door behind me and leaned against it. Letting my head fall back, the house felt different now. Every room held memories of Ava, every corner held moments we shared. Friends who drift apart leave behind silence. Sisters who betray you leave behind ghosts. I walked into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water, though my hands shook so much some of it spilled on the counter. Then I sat at the table and stared at nothing. Hours passed like minutes. My thoughts moved in circles. This was not just about losing a house. This was about losing someone who had been a part of every season of my life. The following morning, reality arrived like a weight I could not ignore. It was time to involve the lawyer again. I brought him everything I had found. The forged documents. The emails. The attempted bank access. The investigator's report. The screenshots. The photos of the dining table covered in papers. He examined everything carefully, his expression darkening. He said, "This is serious. She was not just planning to deceive you emotionally, she was preparing to commit fraud." Hearing the word fraud made my stomach twist. This was not a small fight between siblings. This was a legal crime, a violation of trust so deep that no apology could undo it. He explained the steps I needed to take immediately to protect myself. Freezing my accounts. Changing all passwords. Filing an official report. Documenting everything. He also asked, "Do you want to press charges against your sister and cousin?" I froze. The idea of pressing charges against Ava felt unbearable. She was my sister. We grew up sharing one pillow on nights the house felt too cold. She held my hand during every childhood fear. She braided my hair before school every morning. She was family. But then I remembered the forged signature, the missing heirloom necklace. The fake emails, the lies, the secrecy, the willingness to sell Grandma's house behind my back. The partnership with Noah, the expectation that I would never know. The assumption that my loss was worth her gain. I took a deep breath and told the lawyer, "I need time to think." Over the next few days, the fallout worsened. Noah's mother called me, crying, begging me not to involve the police. My aunt sent a long message accusing me of being dramatic. My uncle insisted I was overreacting. My cousin Emma messaged me privately, saying she always suspected Ava was capable of something like this. Family fractures quickly when truth surfaces. I kept my distance from all of them. Meanwhile, Ava texted repeatedly, "I am sorry, please talk to me, we can fix this." I was stupid. I was desperate. "You know I love you. Please do not tell anyone." Every message felt like a knife. Every apology felt like a shadow of the girl she used to be. I did not respond. The private investigator contacted me again with more findings. He discovered messages between Ava and Noah discussing how to split the money, messages where they mocked me for being too trusting and too soft. Messages where they planned to sell the house to a private buyer quietly to avoid raising suspicion. Those messages broke something permanent inside me on the fourth day after the confrontation. I went back to the family house. I walked through the rooms slowly, touching the old furniture, breathing in the familiar scent of wooden floors and jasmine from the backyard. This home was more than property. It was history. It was love. It was roots. It was Grandma's voice in every corner. Standing in the living room, I whispered aloud, "I am so sorry, Grandma," not because I had failed her, but because someone she loved had tried to destroy her legacy. By the time I left the house, my decision was made. Ava and Noah needed to face consequences. Not out of revenge, not out of anger, but because protecting myself meant honoring the truth. And honoring Grandma's memory meant defending the home she trusted me with. That evening, I sat with the lawyer and initiated the legal process. My hands trembled. My chest tightened. Part of me felt like I was betraying my sister. But the deeper part of me knew she had betrayed me first, and she had left me no choice. The aftermath hurt more than anything I had experienced, but the storm had only begun, and the hardest part was still ahead. Healing from betrayal within family does not follow the same path as healing from heartbreak. Romantic pain breaks your chest, family betrayal breaks your sense of identity. It shakes the foundation you stand on, the memories you grew from, the love you trusted without thinking. For a long time after filing the legal case, I felt hollow. Not angry, not devastated, just hollow, like someone had scooped out the center of who I was and left me to figure out how to fill the emptiness again. But slowly, something began to shift. It started with a moment so small it almost went unnoticed. One morning, as I stood by my kitchen window drinking tea, I realized I did not feel the sharp sting in my chest that had been there every day since everything happened. The heaviness had softened. The air felt clearer. My breath steadier. A quiet voice whispered from inside me, "You survived." I held on to that feeling. I began rebuilding my life not out of anger, but out of necessity. I returned to the family house with a notebook and wrote down everything I wanted to do to honor Grandma's memory, restore the garden, repaint the shutters, rebuild the old swing she used to sit on. It gave me purpose, a reason to wake up each morning, a project rooted in love, not pain. Therapy became another anchor in my transformation. My therapist helped me untangle the emotional web I had been trapped in since childhood. She helped me understand that Ava's betrayal was not born overnight. It grew from years of unresolved resentment, jealousy, and fear. She helped me see that I had spent my entire life playing the role of protector. The steady one, the responsible one, the one who fixed everything and forgave everything, she told me gently. Sometimes the person who holds the family together is the one everyone takes for granted. Hearing that hurt, but it also freed me. I learned that loving someone does not mean sacrificing yourself. I learned that boundaries are not walls, they are doors that you control. I learned that forgiveness is not always the goal. Sometimes the goal is understanding, acceptance, and moving forward. As weeks passed, I began reconnecting with parts of myself I had forgotten. I returned to painting, something I had abandoned when life became too hectic. I picked up old sketchbooks and let colors spill onto pages with no rules. I took long walks by the lake. I started journaling every night, not to document pain, but to rediscover who I was outside of the roles I had been forced into. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to prioritize joy. I spent more time with friends. I let them support me instead of pretending I was fine. I found comfort in laughter again. In quiet dinners. In movie nights. In simple conversations that reminded me life contained beauty even in the midst of grief. The transformation became clearer one evening when I stood in the family house garden, surrounded by jasmine blossoms. I looked around and realized that despite everything Ava tried to take, she did not succeed. She did not take the house. She did not take my foundation. She did not take my future. And most importantly, she did not take me. I had survived the betrayal. I had survived the legal process. I had survived the truth. And I was becoming someone stronger because of it, not harder. Not colder, not closed, just stronger, clearer, more rooted. I no longer felt responsible for saving anyone at the cost of myself. I no longer felt the need to shrink so others could shine. I no longer carried guilt for choosing myself. Healing did not erase what Ava did. It did not restore our bond. It did not rewrite the past. But it allowed me to reclaim control of my life. It allowed me to honor Grandma's memory with pride. It allowed me to stand tall, even with scars. And most importantly, it allowed me to believe in my future again, a future built on honesty, a future built on strength, a future built on the truth of who I had become.